Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm about to play an audio clip for you, and this audio clip is of students at a university who went to a NSA recruitment seminar, and the students really drilled the NSA. I mean, they asked them tough questions, and they didn't back down either. And this is very encouraging for me to see because it means that people in the United States, they're disturbed by what's going on, and it's going to take this uncomfortable feeling for people to wake up and really push back and demand some accountability from our government. So enjoy the audio clip. I just want to speak about a few things real quick. One of the things that they mentioned in the audio clip is that the NSA refers to people who request information as clients. So what this infers is that anyone with the right amount of money and the right connections can access this data. Now, think about this, because what this means is that people without any accountability or any recourse, any avenue for recourse of action, these people can access your information if they have the right amount of money. And the NSA, they really don't care who requests information. I mean, they do. There's probably processes in place for who accesses this information. But at the end of the day, if you listen to what the NSA is saying, they really don't care. They're just doing their job. They're just following orders. And this is so scary because what do we know of people who just follow orders? Well, that's what the Nazi Germans did, all right? They just followed orders, and look what happened. And, I mean, if you think about the things that a dictator would want, number one on his list would be total, complete surveillance of the people he's ruling over. So right now, while we may be comfortable and we may think that this means nothing, it is setting up the framework for a dictator to come in power and have complete control over our society. So I think the American people really need to wake up, and it's really encouraging that these students, I mean, just the eloquence in which they asked the questions and their fortitude not to back down was really inspiring. And I hope you enjoy, and I hope you listen, because this is what our media needs to be doing. But our media has been nothing but a lapdog for our government. I mean, basically, they are just the propaganda wing of our government. And it's time that people stop listening to this mainstream media bullshit and actually start taking it to the streets themselves, and start going to and holding our government officials accountable, and getting up in their face like these students did to the NSA. I think it was just brilliant. All right, so enjoy. Talk to you soon.
Question. You said that earlier that the two tasks that you do, one is sort of figuring out the tracking down the sort of communications of your adversaries, and the other is protecting the communications of officials.
Right.
So do you consider Germany and the countries that the NSA has been spying on to be adversaries, or are you right now not speaking the truth?
At least
I mean, do you consider Germany, etc., an adversary, these European countries, or are you right now not telling us the truth and lying when you say that actually you simply track you keep focusing on that, but clearly the NSA is doing a lot more than that, as we know. So I'm just asking for a clarification.
What our foreign intelligence requirements are. So, I mean, you can define adversary as enemy, and clearly Germany is not our enemy. But would we have foreign national interest from an intelligence perspective on what's going on across the globe? Yeah, we do. I mean, that's our requirements that come to us as an intelligence community organization from the policymakers, from the military, from whoever, are global.
So by adversaries, you actually mean anybody and everybody. There's nobody then, by your definition, that is not an adversary. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
Who is not an adversary?
Well, okay. I can answer your questions, but the reality is...
No, I'm just trying to get the clarification, because you told us what the two nodes of your work are, but it's not clear to me what that encompasses, and you're being fairly unclear at the moment about what you consider to be an adversary. Apparently it's somebody who's not just an enemy.
So
it's something broader than that, and yet it doesn't seem to encompass everyone. So what is the...
So for us, our business is apolitical, okay?
Okay.
We do not generate the intelligence requirements.
You just
Right.
follow
They're
orders.
levied on us, and so if there is a requirement for foreign intelligence concerning this issue or this region or whatever, then that is, if you want to use the word adversary, you can, we might use the word target. That is what we are going after. That is the intelligence target that we are going after because we were given that requirement. Whether it's adversary in a global war on terrorism sense or adversary in terms of national security interests or whatever, that's for policymakers, I guess, to make that determination. But we respond to the requirements that we're given, if that helps. And there's a separation. The language analyst, we work in the SIGINT side of the house. We don't really work on the information assurance side of the house. That's the guy setting up protecting our communication.
Yeah, I guess I'm
systems.
surprised that for language analysts, you're incredibly imprecise with your language, and it just doesn't seem to be clear. So adversary basically is what any of your so-called customers, as you call them, which is also a strange term to use for a government agency, decide. If anybody wants, any part of the government wants something about some country, suddenly they are now internally considered or termed an adversary. I mean, that's what you seem to be saying.
I'm saying you can think about it using that term.
But the reality is, it's our government's interest in some aspect of what a foreign country is doing.
Right. So adversary can be anyone.
As long as they levy the requirement on us through the right vehicle that exists for this,
Right.
and that it is defined in terms of being a foreign intelligence requirement. There's a national framework of foreign intelligence, what's it called,
The NIPA.
Yes, the National Prioritization of Intelligence Framework or whatever, that determines these are the issues that we're interested in, these are how they're prioritized.
Your slide said adversary, and I agree with you. I mean, I think target would probably be a little bit better, but it's not actually just a word game. The problem is that these countries are fairly, I mean, it's one thing, I think Afghanistan probably is not shocked to realize that they're on the list to be surveilled. I think Germany seems to be quite shocked at what has been going on. So this is not just a word game, obviously, and you understand that as well as I do. So it's very strange that you're selling yourself here in one particular fashion. It's absolutely not true.
I don't think we're selling ourselves in an untrue fashion.
Well, this is a recruiting session, and you're telling us things that aren't true. I mean, and, we also know that the NSA took down brochures and fact sheets after the Snowden revelations because those fact sheets also had severe inaccuracies and untruths in them, right? So how are we supposed to believe what you're saying?
I have a lifestyle question that you seem to be selling. It sounds more like a colonial expedition. The globe is our playground was the words that you used, the phrasing that you used. And, you seem to be saying that you can do your work, you can analyze said documents for your so-called customers, but then you can go and get drunk and dress up and have fun without thinking of the repercussions that your information that you're analyzing has on the rest of the world. And I also want to know what are the qualifications that one needs to become a whistleblower, because that sounds like a much more interesting job. And I think the Edward Snowdens and the Bradley Mannings and Julian Assanges of the world will prevail ultimately.
I'm not sure that,
I mean, I think the question here is, do you actually think about the ramifications of the work that you do, which is deeply problematic, or do you just dress up in costumes and get drunk?
That's why the context, when I was talking about reporting information, the intelligence that we get and reporting it in the right context is so important, because the consequences of bad political decisions by our policymakers are something we all suffer from, right?
And people suffer from the misinformation that you pass along, so you should take
it's our
responsibility as
job,
well.
And we take it very seriously that when we give information to our policymakers, we do give it to them in the right context so they can make the best decision with the best information available.
Is that what
And that's
E&I
why we
Clapper
don't
was
just
doing?
tell them this
Is
happened,
that
we
what
tell
E&I
them.
Clapper was doing when he perjured himself in front of Congress? Was he giving accurate information when he said we do not collect any intelligence on United States citizens? And, oh, no, it's only occasionally, perhaps unintentionally? Or was he perjuring himself when he made a statement in front of Congress under oath that he later declared to be erroneous or the least untruthful answer? How do you feel personally having a boss who's comfortable perjuring himself in front of Congress?
There is not General Clapper.
Oh, well, General Alexander also lied in front of Congress.
I don't believe that he did.
Well, probably because access to the Guardian is restricted at the Department of Defense computers. I'm sure that they don't encourage people like you to actually think about these things. Thank God, men like Edward Snowden, who your organization is now part of a manhunt, trying to track down, trying to put in a little hole somewhere for the rest of his life. Thank God they exist.
And why are you
see,
denigrating anything else
definition-
done with language? We don't do that. We don't read cultural artifacts, or we don't read poetry or things like that. There are other things to do with language than joining this group, okay?
And this job
take
isn't
that
for
assessment.
everybody, you know, and that's part of the reason for coming out here is that academia is a great career.
So is this
people
job for
with
liars?
language.
Is that what you're saying? Because, I mean, clearly you're not able to give us forthright answers. I mean, do you, like, given the way that the NSA has behaved, given the fact that we have been lied to as Americans, given the fact that fact sheets have been pulled down because they clearly had untruths in them, given the fact that Clapper and Alexander lied to Congress, is that a qualification for being in the NSA? Do you have to be a good liar?
I don't consider myself to be a liar in any fashion. And the reality is, I mean, this was billed as, if you are potentially interested in an NSA career, come to our session. If you're not, if this is your personal belief and your understanding of what has been presented, then, you know, there's nothing that says you need to come and apply and work for us. We're not here, our role as NSA employees is not to represent NSA, the things that are in the press right now about NSA to the public. That's not our role at all. That's not my area of expertise. I have not read every
Right, but you're
single
here
thing.
recruiting, and so you're selling the organization. So, I mean, I'm less interested in what your specialized role is within the NSA. I don't care. The fact is, you're here presenting a public face for the NSA, and you're trying to sell the organization to people that are as young as high schoolers, and trying to tell us that this is an attractive option in a context in which we clearly know that the NSA has been telling us complete lies. So I'm wondering, is that a qualification?
I don't believe the NSA is telling complete lies. And I do believe that, you know, I mean, you can read a lot of different things that are portrayed as fact. And that doesn't make them fact just because they're in newspapers and.
Or intelligence reports?
But that's not our purpose here today. And I think, you know, if you're not interested there are probably people here who are interested in a language career.
The trouble is, we can't opt out of NSA surveillance, and we don't get answers. So we actually, you know, it's not an option. You're posing it as a choice, like, oh, you know, people who are interested can just sit here, and those of us who are not interested can leave. If I could opt out of NSA surveillance and it was no longer my business, that would be fine. But it is my business because all of us are being surveilled. So we're here.
That is incorrect. That is not our
So,
job. That is not our business.
That's,
That is not what we do.
that doesn't seem to be incorrect given the leaks,
There
right?
are
And you are
not-
not able, the
no.
NSA has not been able to actually put out anything that is convincing contrary to that.
I don't understand what's wrong with having some accountability, so, you know, if you wanted to have a
We are-
cop-out.
We have complete accountability, and there's absolutely nothing that we can or have done without approval of the three branches of the government. The programs that were
Did you read the
enacted.
New York Times? Did you read about this illegal wiretapping? Why are you lying?
Did you read
Out of
the
respect for
Senate
anyone who wants to
Judiciary
work for these
Review
people.
on us? Judiciary Review that said there have only been 50 instances, and they were all documented and done correctly with the FISA report. and the system, the
I would love to read the opinion of the FISA report that said that one of the NSA's program was violating the Fourth Amendment right to mass amounts of Americans, but it's a big old secret, and only people like you who are comfortable not talking to their wives when they get home about what they do all day are able to see the top secret things that are protecting us from the terror threat. But let's let everyone hear more information about karaoke.